fight for your vote, your front row seat to the battle for New York's next mayor. It's the old guard clinging to power, chasing a candidate they never saw coming. Every night, our experts break it down.
What New Yorkers want above all else is authenticity.
We're listening to the people who matter most, you, the voters. And when the candidates sit across from us, nothing's off the table. What's your plan to make New York City feel like a safer city?
S.E. Cupp, that's your perception. Of course, there's a lot of crime.
So what's happening right now? Let's dive in. Welcome to Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote. It's Monday, November 3rd. It's election eve. I feel like breaking into Les Mis's one day more because that's where we're at. Finally, it's an exciting week. And later in today's show, we're going to talk to a New York City political insider about how this race is shaped up and the important road ahead for whomever wins on election day. But first, as always, let's get to the very latest news. And joining me now is Morgan McKay, political reporter at Fox 5 New York. Morgan, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited that this is almost the end here of all the election fun, I should say.
I know, but I love our Monday rituals where I ask you, and I'll ask you for the last time, where were the political candidates over the weekend? Who were they talking to? What were they doing?
So I think it's a hard way. I think it's hard to say who has a most packed campaign schedule, either Zohran Mamdani or Curtis Sliwa. They both have really hit the pavement, especially this past weekend, but throughout this election cycle. Zohran Mamdani, on Saturday, he joined Reverend Al Sharpton in Harlem. And Sharpton had an interesting message that seemed angled more toward Andrew Cuomo on Saturday, saying, quote, "If you can't get a vote on your record, don't play us against each other," and really pushing against Islamophobia that seems to be a little heightened in this race. And they were out campaigning together. Sharpton hasn't endorsed Mamdani, but they did go out and have this sort of unified approach on Saturday. And then he also went to 6 different nightclubs on Saturday night. It wasn't on his campaign schedule, but the videos were popping up almost all over my Twitter feed. And then also on Sunday, he went to church. He went and canvassed in Harlem. He met with voters at the New York City Marathon. He watched some football with Governor Kathy Hochul. He went and they watched the Bills, which drew a little bit of criticism, a little bit of from some people who are saying, you need to either pick the Jets, the Giants, but he's not saying he supports the Bills, but he was there with Governor Kathy Hochul, who's from Western New York, big Bills fan. Then he actually went to go watch the Knicks, and he sat in nosebleed seats. And this was also sort of a dig against Cuomo, who went to the Knicks game with Mayor Eric Adams, and they sat, of course, right there on the court. Now, Andrew Cuomo, he went and he campaigned a bit with Mayor Eric Adams on Saturday, and then he went and campaigned in Jamaica, Queens, in Brownsville. And then on Sunday, he went to 2 churches and then campaigned in the Bronx. I didn't see him at the marathon, but he did send people there who were canvassing, had shirts on and everything. And then Curtis Sliwa, another one that was saying he's been going nonstop. He started off every single morning of this campaign at a subway stop, except for this past Saturday. He actually started off his morning at a rally on Staten Island with former Mayor Rudy Giuliani. They were campaigning on Staten Island, and then he hit every borough on Saturday except for Brooklyn, but then made it up on Sunday, went to Brooklyn, did a few stops in Brooklyn, did a car parade, and then a rally in Queens, and then held another rally in Queens. And then at night, he walked through Times Square in Hell's Kitchen. So all 3 candidates really packed campaign schedule over the weekend.
I'm exhausted, okay? I'm exhausted listening to everything, especially all the night clubbing. I saw those videos of Zohran Mamdani clubbing, and I was like, is Eric Adams there? Is he with Eric Adams? Like,
yes. And they're like 2 a.m.
For that. But good for him.
Not zero bond.
That's his youth. That's his youth, right? He can do that. Now, I also saw Mamdani released a video in Arabic over the weekend, and not only might he become the first Muslim mayor of New York City, but I'm also wondering if you can tell me how many Muslim voters could turn out in this election, and could it be a record number?
So there's definitely a high number of Muslim voters in New York City, and he has made outreach to Muslim voters a core part of his outreach out of his campaign. And he's visited more than, I believe, 50 mosques already throughout this campaign cycle. Some of them he visited multiple times. And I believe his campaign, they said that he's visited over 180 mosques as a campaign whole. I think they've done to canvass them. But Mamdani, he speaks a lot of different languages. I believe he speaks Spanish, English, Arabic, Hindu, or Hindi, excuse me, and I believe Urdu as well. So he speaks quite a few different languages. He jokes around that he's not quite fluent, but as you can tell in the video, he's a little bit more fluent than we've seen some of the other political politicians who have, when they've tried to speak Spanish, for example, Bill de Blasio, and you've heard him try to speak some Spanish, he drew a little criticism, I would say, but
always dicey. It's always a dicey move. I saw Mamdani's also targeting another key group, Black voters. What's he been doing over the course of the last few days to win over that voting bloc?
He's definitely been hitting all of the outer boroughs. He's been really trying to reach out, especially to older New Yorkers in some areas like the Bronx, Harlem. He's definitely been hitting more of the Bronx lately with Senator Gustavo Rivera, who's one of the local state senators up there. But it's definitely a little bit more of his weaker spot. We saw this with Andrew Cuomo. He's been really leaning into Mayor Eric Adams, who does poll a little bit better in these neighborhoods where he has a little bit more of a established base in that area.
Yeah, it's all, I mean, it's a voting block that Mamdani is trying to, I think, take away from Andrew Cuomo. We'll see if it works in the end. Morgan, I've got some more questions for you after the break, so don't go anywhere. More Battleground NYC when we return. We're back with more Battleground NYC. I'm joined again by Morgan McKay, political reporter at Fox 5 New York. Morgan, let's talk a little bit more about Andrew Cuomo. He's attempting to appeal to a wide swath of voters. You know, he did MSNBC over the weekend. He also did Fox News over the weekend. We know he's been trying to court those Republican voters, those Sliwa voters. What else can you tell us about those appearances?
Yeah, so Cuomo has definitely been trying to reach out to not only Democratic voters, but also Republican and independent voters. And we've been watching him straddle this line that I find very interesting, and people much more knowledgeable are going to be probably writing about for a while now, is just how he has tried to reach out to these Republican voters by saying, you know, he is a Democrat, but at the same time, he's not one of the Democrats that is currently existing, saying often how he doesn't recognize the Democratic Party as it is now, but also trying to win over these frustrated, maybe more moderate Democrats, independents, while also saying with this message at the end of the day, he's not Mamdani. And if you are maybe uncertain about him, he's at least not a Democratic socialist who he believes is not a Democrat at all. So he's definitely been trying to straddle this line, which is why we're seeing him appear on a lot of different types of media, both right-leaning and left-leaning, and he's definitely trying to make that appeal.
It makes sense. Okay, so early voting is over. We know there was record turnout. What do we know about the final numbers?
So, when it comes to final numbers, more than 735,000 people voted early in the first 9 days of early voting, shattering records from 2021. Now, if that vote continues to tomorrow, we could be seeing, if that voting trend continues to tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
we could be seeing around 2 million people voting. I know many experts are saying that's what they're hoping for, between 1.5 to 2 million New Yorkers turning out to vote, which would be incredible. So if you haven't voted yet, go out and vote tomorrow. But voters 55 and under made up 56% of that early vote. So we saw a lot in the first 2 days of early voting, voters 55 and older really turning out to vote. But in these final days, a lot of younger voters, especially yesterday, turned out to vote. So it's breaking a little bit more even. So voters 55 and older altogether, all 9 days, made up about 44% of that early vote. So we're going to have to see where it turns out on Election Day.
Fascinating. Since this race has become sort of a national spectator sport, President Donald Trump weighed in a lengthy 60 Minutes interview over the weekend, and he gave sort of a lukewarm endorsement to one candidate. Surprising, sort of. Who was it?
Andrew Cuomo, yeah. Which he's been hinting around for a while now. He's been saying that people should vote for Cuomo if they want to defeat Mom Donnie, that Curtis Lewa will just fill Gracie Mansion with cats. Him and Curtis Lewa also don't get along very well, so it wasn't any surprise that he wasn't that enthusiastic, I guess, about Sliwa. But he did say yesterday that if he could vote, he would vote for Cuomo in that sort of sideways way that he said it. But Cuomo really
so
trying to brush it off.
I just remember back to like Andrew Cuomo as governor, doing those briefings during COVID, taking swipes at Trump. I mean, they were such bitter enemies. It's wild what politics will do of strange bedfellows. Okay, before I let you go, you and I are going to be on Fox 5 New York together tomorrow night for the whole thing, including special Battleground in studio. How are you prepping for coverage, Morgan?
So what I'm really looking out for is, again, just that voter turnout. The good news for us, SC Cupp, is that because of a law passed by the New York State Legislature, the Board of Elections actually gets to go through and process votes a little bit early. So they will be able to post early election results at exactly 9:05, 9:04, they were telling me today. So polls close at 9 p.m. So right after that's done, we're at least going to likely get a good chunk of the early votes released. And so we'll have a good idea heading into that the last, hopefully, hour of the night for what the results are for that full day. Something else to be watching out for is a lot of the earlier votes came from wealthier neighborhoods. So a lot of the working class still hasn't voted yet. And also a lot of independents, a lot of people unaffiliated with a party, they also haven't yet turned out to vote. So we're hoping to see just everybody coming out to vote. So I'm going to be watching those numbers tomorrow night, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we could have results as early as 10 p.m.
Yeah, which is wild because in New York City, it usually doesn't come down to the wire. It's not usually very dramatic. We kind of know how it's going to go. This one's going to be dramatic, and I'm really excited for tomorrow.
Yes, I think it could be potentially close, but as many experts say, it's hard to tell because of how high of a voter turnout it was this year. It's hard for polls to truly predict where things are going to lean. So it's exciting time.
That's what makes it exciting. Okay, Morgan, we'll see you tomorrow. I'm really excited. Thanks for all of your incredible reporting this entire campaign season and season of Battleground. We've really, really loved getting to know you and having you on.
Thank you so much, Essie. It's been a pleasure, truly. Thank you.
Okay, I'll see you tomorrow, and don't go anywhere. There's more Battleground NYC after the break. We're back with Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote. And joining me now for the bigger picture is Christine Quinn, a former New York City Council speaker. Christine, welcome back to the show. I should also note you ran for mayor. Yeah.
Yes,
You know the
yes,
drill.
yes.
So is it exhausting as these candidates may make it seem this weekend?
It is exhausting. I mean, the city is just a huge place, and you don't want to overlook any corner, because if you overlook a New Yorker, they're going to let you
Yes.
know about it at the ballot. No question. And there is a long held tradition of the final weekend before primary day or election day of candidates going out to LGBTQ bars and doing a bar crawl, which Mondami clearly did, even I think taking over the DJ
I
mic
love
at
that. Well, that part
places.
I could do. I'm good at a bar crawl. But yeah, it looked exhausting. So how are you feeling ahead of
It's
election day?
exhausting.
Where do you think this is going to go tomorrow?
Well, look, I think it's very unlikely that anybody but Mondami is the winner. I think the question really is, does Mondami get to
Mm,
50% or more? I think if he gets over 50 or even gets 50, he can kind of say he
yeah,
has a mandate. And for national Democrats, then they can say, look, New York was clear. This is who they wanted,
right.
whatever you think. If he gets less than 50, it's not like he doesn't have a lot of support, but I just think 50 or more would put a little more wind at his back as he tries to
Yeah, I
implement
think
his
you'll
agenda.
definitely hear both Republicans and Democrats if he's under 50% saying, well, but he won with a plurality. I think Democrats like Hakeem Jeffries would then be able to credibly say he doesn't totally represent the party. But yeah, that number where he lands is going to be really important. You're right. Mamdani's promised a lot of things, as political candidates do, but he'll need a working relationship with some key people and bodies to get any of this done. I think starting with, most importantly, city council. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it's very important if a mayor really wants to get their agenda out to have a good working relationship with the council, which does not mean you're always in
Mm,
agreement with them, but it means that you can agree to disagree agreeably, have a disagreement on Monday, maybe they veto a bill, and then on Wednesday stand together. Because at the city level, with a one house government, you really need to be partners. He also, since some of what he wants to get done can't get passed by the council, can only get done by the state
hmm
legislature, he needs to have a good relationship
Yeah.
with the governor, the speaker of the assembly, and the leader of
With
the
Albany.
state
Yeah.
senate.
Can you think of a modern New York City mayor for whom those relationships were not good and maybe it impeded their ability to do their jobs?
Well, right now, Mayor Adams and the council have not
Mm,
had a good relationship. Mayor Adams weighed into the speaker's race 4 years ago. He picked someone
mm.
who lost. That's not a
Yeah.
good place to be if you're the mayor, because the new speaker knew you didn't have her back. And they've had nothing but disagreements, and not implementing the council's bills, even when they overrode a veto, things like that. Now, Bill de Blasio famously went onto New York One and attacked then Governor Andrew
Mhm.
Cuomo. So that relationship was about as bad as
Yeah.
you can get. So those
Mm.
are two examples, but stuff can really stall if you don't have good
Well,
working
and speaking of
relationships.
the speaker, that's also a race that's going to be decided. How
Yes.
pivotal is that role in terms of it dealing with the mayor?
Well, look, it's the second most powerful position in the city of New York's government. And that person can either put the mayor back on
Mm,
his heels or put the mayor in a position where they're getting support and moving forward. And I think you want to have a team like relationship. But if that's antagonistic, as we saw with Adams and
mm,
Adams, funny enough, it really hinders a mayor. And also, you look, if you want to be a mayor who can make a deal, who can make things happen, you want to at least be
mm,
collegial in a way. I mean, one of the things Mike Bloomberg did a lot was have council members over to his house for meals, have council members over to Gracie Mansion for meals. And people, people are
yeah.
affected by that, right? They know they're being paid attention to. So it really does make a difference if you're going to be a mayor who reaches out and embraces the council, or a mayor who treats the council like a second
Yeah,
class
that's an
citizen.
important point. And we know that Mamdani has some experience in the legislature. He was an assemblyman, but
Yeah.
no experience certainly running a city of the size of New York. That's just a fact, not necessarily a diss. How does he get ready if he becomes the mayor tomorrow? How does he get ready for this giant, colossal job?
Well, I believe that they've already started working on
Mm.
the transition. And look, there's some degree, you don't want to
Yeah.
jinx it. You're not the mayor yet, but far ahead it is responsible to start planning the transition. So it's not going to be at zero come Wednesday morning. We've already seen some names leaked to the press about who they're considering for first deputy mayor. And I think from the perspective of everyday New Yorkers, but also people who are watching this process, who he announces as the police commissioner and the first deputy mayor will send a message of what his administration's going to be and what his management is
Christine,
like.
such great insight. I've got more questions for you, so don't go anywhere. We'll be back after a break with more Battleground NYC. And we're back with more Battleground NYC one more time with the bigger picture is Christine Quinn, former New York City Council Speaker and former mayoral candidate. Christine, if Mamdani wins, he's promised to scale back some of the mayor's control over things like schools, for example. He wants more of that control in the hands of parents and teachers. Do you think that's smart, or could that not work out great?
Well, look, the buck will always stop with the mayor when it comes to New York City public schools, as
Mhm.
it should. But I think to give parents an opportunity to be more part of the
Yeah.
process is something that can only help schools do better. And teachers for a long time have felt like they've kind of been under the thumb of administrators, under the thumb of the
Mm.
mayor. So to give them where they really can be leaders is also a good thing. A school is a team, and you need every team member to know what their role is and have an ability to
Mhm.
fulfill that role. That's really good as long as the mayor doesn't step away and say, not my job. And I don't think that's what
Is
Antoni's
this
talking about.
empowering the teachers union, ultimately?
Well, I think the teachers union has been clear in articulating the position of teachers that they want to be more leaders, that they want to have more latitude over what they can do in the classroom, that they don't want to teach just to the test, that doesn't work for every student. So in some ways it's opening up the door for the
Mm.
union's voice of teachers to
Okay,
be
makes
heard.
sense. We've been talking a lot about the future of the Democratic Party over the course of this election, and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, as you know, was late to endorse Mamdani, gave him sort of a lukewarm endorsement, and then over the weekend, he basically said, when asked if Mamdani was the future of the Democratic Party, he said, "No, House Democrats are the future of the Democratic Party." What did you make of that?
Look, I think Hakeem has been in a difficult position. This is his first big election as leader of the Democrats. So that's never easy, your first time around. There probably were people kind of whispering in his ear, oh, Mondami's going to hurt
Mm.
me and, name the state that's not New York. But the truth is, whoever the mayor of New York has been, if it's a Democrat, they call that person a communist and they use that person in midterm elections. They did it with de
Yes.
Blasio. We see it again. They do it with Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah.
I mean, she's not the mayor, but they do it with leading Democrats. So are they going to do it with Mondami? Yes, but they would have
Anyway.
done it anyway. So I think, the fear that I understand on Leader Jeffrey's part really isn't going to be any different than it ever was when de Blasio was mayor. The Long Island congressional and state Senate races, de Blasio was the star of the campaign literature.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you're just going to see Mamdani's face on mailers in Texas, in Georgia, in Michigan. Right. It's not just because Hakeem Jeffries sort of endorsed him isn't going to stop Republicans certainly from using him as a foil. And Christine, before I let you go, I want your take on some other races. It's not just about New York City, but there's two big governor's races tomorrow as well, New Jersey governor and Virginia governor. Let's start with New Jersey. How do you think that one's going to go?
I'm nervous. Look, I really want Mikey Sherrill to win. One, because I'm a Democrat, but two, because Jack Ciattarelli is a very dangerous man. He has swallowed, 100 million% everything about Donald Trump and MAGA, and he could set a progressive state back decades and decades. But the race has closed by some polls within the margin of error, so it's going to be
that. Yeah, and it wasn't always. It wasn't. She was in a really good position for a while. Also, Virginia governor. I know that's not close to us, but that's a big race. How's that looking in your perspective?
The Virginia governor's race is crazy because you can only be governor for
7
one
years.
term.
Right.
Like, it's the weird thing. Yeah, I don't get it. But I think the Democrat is going to prevail in Virginia. I feel much more confident about Virginia than I do about New Jersey.
So let's say all the Democrats win tomorrow. How needed is that momentum going into a midterm election year?
I think it would be great momentum. It would put a wind at our back. Now, we already, which I think doesn't get talked about enough, have done really well, the Democrats, in special elections. Even since we lost the presidency, we've been winning specials, so that's a wind at our back. But we want to keep it going and keep it moving forward, and we really could stand, much more strongly with our heads up. Win
and real quick, let's say Mamdani wins, but Democrats lose both of those state houses. Then what kind of position do you think you guys are in?
That's not good. We need a hat trick. That's what we need, and that's what I'm hoping.
Well, we'll know soon enough. Christine Quinn, I just want to say thanks again for coming on our show this season. It's been such a delight. You're such a great, insightful guest. We've loved having you.
Thank you. Take
Absolutely.
care,
okay, and we are back here tomorrow, like I said, for a special Battleground live from the Fox 5 New York set, and we'll be here for the whole week. So don't turn us off until this week's over. Hopefully we'll know tomorrow, but I make no promises. Thanks for tuning in. Battleground NYC, the fight for your vote.
Thanks for watching Battleground. We're now joining Live Now's nonstop stream of live and breaking news.
City in the world, he has no chance to bring it back to its former glory. We must also remember this: a vote for Curtis Sliwa, who looks much better without the beret, is a vote for Mamdani. Whether you personally like Andrew Cuomo or not, you really have no choice. You must vote for him and hope he does a fantastic job. He is capable of it. Mamdani is not. So that was President Trump putting that out on Truth Social just a little bit ago. And as I mentioned there before, key races are going